aga järgmisena kuuleme, kuidas muuta riiete ja asjade parandamine seksikaks. Sellest jääb rääkida Monika Hauck, kes tuleb siia Saksamaalt.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Monika Hauck. It's a real pleasure to be here today and meet so many beautiful, innovative, and compassionate people of Estonia. Really big thanks for inviting me to all the organizers. If you are here today, most likely is because you care about the fashion industry in one way or the other. I myself, I love fashion. I think I even could call myself a recovering shopaholic. And today, I want to share my personal story, how I lost my love to fashion and how I regained it again via the use of repair and alteration services. Throughout my life, I had the privilege to experience the fashion industry in very different and many ways. I was born and raised in the Baltics. I'm originally from Lithuania, and I was still born in the Soviet Union times. And my first contact to fashion was via my mother. One thing that I really remember very well, back in the days, if you wanted to look good, it was very difficult to buy nice and stylish clothing. So if you wanted to look good, you needed to make your clothes yourself. And I actually grew up not with Elle Cosmopolitan, but with Burda magazine. And I still remember the excitement every month in my mother's eyes when she got a new Burda. I also grew up wearing clothing which were being made out of fabrics of my grandmother's dress. So the whole topic of upcycling was already very much deep in the roots back then. For better or worse, I also learned how to make clothing and repair clothing while at school. Maybe a bit sexist, because girls had to learn how to cook and make clothing, boys had to learn how to work with wood and other hardcore equipment, but I'm very, very grateful that I learned the skill of making and repairing clothing in my childhood. Later on, as I was 15 years old, I started working as a fashion model. I did it for over 6 years, traveled the world, saw the industry inside out, working for the largest agencies and largest brands. I also indulged myself into fast fashion. Actually, I was even sometimes proud to wear cheap clothing to expensive parties and say, hey, I don't need expensive clothing. Fast fashion democratized fashion, but also at a very big cost. I left fashion industry after 6 years, met my husband, and ended up in Germany, Düsseldorf, studied finance, and I thought I will never work in fashion industry again. And later on, as I was doing my PhD in the field of open and collaborative innovation, I decided to analyze the fashion industry again. So sort of after 10 years of a break, I returned to the fashion industry. As a mother and as a feminist, I couldn't ignore the sustainability and social injustice issues in the fashion industry. And during the time, I also became fashion activist with social movement Fashion Revolution, which I believe many of you have already heard about. But back to my PhD. As innovation researcher, I was really shocked to find out that fashion industry was neither innovative nor collaborative. Indeed, only about 2% of operating profit in the fashion industry is being put into R&D. This number is about 20% in other industries like IT, food, or pharmaceutical industry. So fashion industry has never had interest to innovate. And I think the crazy fact is that as a society today, we are exploring space tourism already, but the way we produce clothing hasn't changed in the last 100 years. We're still using the same human hands and the same machinery to produce clothing. And that lack of innovators actually led to one of the largest industrial catastrophes of our times, which you might have heard about it. This catastrophe also motivated a birth of a social movement, fashion revolution, which is the largest social movement for sustainability in fashion, telling us consumers that we also have a voice to change the fashion industry by getting more active, by also asking the brands who made our clothing. In the meantime, it's already 11 years have passed since Rana Plaza tragedy, and I think a lot of positive things have happened in the fashion industry. Consumers are getting more aware, brands are looking for different solutions, and we have laws, the supply chain laws in the European Union, which are promising to be also a game changer for the people in the global south. But I think when we talk about sustainability in fashion, the elephant in the room is overproduction and overconsumption. We want to have always more. We women, we are paying for the fashion industry. The fashion industry is not being just to us. We women are used to buy clothing always on sale. Around 70% of all fashion purchases are being done on sale. So we are not willing to spend money on fashion as maybe we are spending on other goods or services. And this is sort of where I had my epiphany. I was attending one of the events with African entrepreneurs, and you might know that a lot of secondhand clothing that we are getting bored of are being shipped to Africa or South America. And one of these entrepreneurs said, we were talking about global justice and if it's fair, because cheap secondhand clothing are actually destroying the local markets in Africa, because there's no incentivation to produce any new clothing, and the local designers and local craftsmen are not being needed any longer. And that entrepreneur said, we give you coffee, and you give us your old clothes, and then you call this global justice. And this really was for me a game changer. I said, okay, you know, we need to change the industry somehow. I was aware that I would also like to do something as an entrepreneur, because it's one thing to be a lecturer, it's one thing to be a researcher, it's one thing to be an activist and go in the streets and protest, but there's a very different thing to really roll your sleeves and build something on your own. And I was sure that I don't want to find another fashion brand, because I was also sure that this world don't really need any new clothing. Currently, on the earth, we have about, the clothing that we currently have on earth, we could dress 6 generations of humankind. So we could stop producing fashion, and still 6 generations would have enough to dress up. And for me, it was clear that actually the answer to sustainability might be fighting for longevity in fashion. And as a Lithuanian myself, who has been repairing all the clothes I had, I never throw anything away. I have a daughter, and I always pass things to her. I sort of felt, okay, repair might not be the next big thing in fashion, but maybe it is the next right thing in fashion. And in Düsseldorf, while sitting at the cobbler shop, this is Hassan, one of our first cobblers, I came to realize that maybe we should try to make repair services more accessible and more sexy for the end consumers. So this is how my startup, Repairables, was born. So Repairables is a digital platform for textile and shoe repairs and alterations. What problem are we trying to solve? And we are in Germany, the Western Europe, and I think the realities and fashion consumption and attitude to repair is a bit different. First of all, we spoke about it, is the fashion industry. We have way too many clothing, and we also have new regulations coming from the EU, the eco-design rules and right to repair, which are about to push the industry to produce less. On the other side, we also have consumers, and a lot of consumers say, I would like to repair, repair is good, repair is important, but only very few people actually do so. And in Germany, more specifically, about 60% of people say they would like to repair, but about only 20 actually repair it. Why? Because it's so exhaustive. It's very difficult to find a good repair shop. You need to find time. These repair shops are not digital. They are not offering the same glossy user experience as you might experience in beautiful department stores or well-designed e-commerce shops. Also, we are losing craftsmen, and I think it's a phenomenon all over Europe. So craftsmen are dying out. They are not being digital, and especially during the COVID times, a lot of craftsmen were suffering. So here come we. Our solution or our vision is to make fashion repairs as easy as buying new, just make it more social, local, and also make it fashionable. So we are creating experienced craftsmen. We offer online payment, transparency. We offer quality, and we are also trying to create a brand that people feel proud to be associated with, because typically people don't speak about their repairs, but we are trying to change that narrative. We launched it in Düsseldorf in a very small context, so we are pioneers in Germany in this new sort of area of fashion repairs, or digital fashion repairs. We learned a lot. We repaired a lot of clothing and made a lot of women happy by repairing the bags. We also made a lot of men happy. And we never try to say no when somebody comes to us. And we are actually able to do so because we are working with over 50 different craftsmen all over Düsseldorf and also outside of Düsseldorf. So we are able to service any repair needs that actually come up. And we are sort of trying to create a supermarket for repair. So this beautiful department store, not for buying new, but for repairing. What did we learn? Surprisingly, we learned that men are a great customer group. And guess why? Men don't like to buy new. And typically, men are the best customers because they are more loyal to the clothing that they own. And they just come to us and say, okay, repair it no matter what it costs. I want to have that pair of trousers back. And I love it. And that's an interesting finding. We also see there's a very big difference between economic and sentimental value. So people might repair a luxury bag or luxury shoes, but they might also repair a fast fashion item, which might be very cheap, but maybe you are emotionally attached to it. Maybe it's a special item like the amber chain I'm wearing, which was broken, and it's from my grandma actually, and it was worth repairing for me. Also, there is a difference between desire for convenience, because we want everything fast and very comfortable, and desire for individualization. Second-hand markets are growing, actually growing 3 times as fast as a normal fashion market. And second-hand market is also asking a lot for repair and alteration services. And we believe there's a huge and unexplored potential. In Germany, around half of all Germans have never been at a repair shop to repair clothing. And around 70% of men, young men up to 30, have never visited a cobbler shop to repair shoes. So I know we are in a different context here, and I would like to raise a question. How many of you have repaired a piece of clothing yourself in the last month? Raise your hands. Oh, very good. Impressive. How many of you have visited a cobbler shop to repair your shoes in the last year? Okay, yeah, we see a clear difference. And yes, nevertheless, we believe there's a lot of potential in making these services more convenient and making them more fashionable so that people can do it more and more often. Yeah. At the same time, there's a huge potential when it comes to the fashion industry, because fashion industry has a lot of pressure now coming from the EU to actually offer repair and alteration services. And surprising fact is that around 80% of all clothing that fashion industry declares as waste could actually be repaired and resold. So there's a huge potential hiding there, and a huge amounts of clothing just being put in the trash or burned. And indeed, Ellen MacArthur Foundation, which does a lot of great research on circular economy, is saying that circular fashion promises to be, or has a huge promise for sustainability in fashion, and around 23% of all fashion sales should be coming from circular services like rent, resell, and repair. We talked a bit about innovation and we talk about the future, but I think it's very important to remember that circular economy, although it's sort of an innovative concept today, it's a very old concept. It's actually as old as humankind. And for everybody who's interested in circular economy, I highly recommend a book by Walter Stachel, The Circular Economy, The User's Guide. It beautifully explains about the potential of the concept. And Walter, which is a good friend and actually also supporter of Repair Rebels, in his book he writes, we as a society, we went through different steps when we talk about circular economy. So we have circular society when we were sharing and reusing goods, and this sharing was based on scarcity. So maybe this is the times when you remember from your grandparents or great-grandparents where clothing or goods were being shared and actually even passed over from family to family. Today, we are facing the individual circular society, so which is driven by each of us who we want to make a contribution to the better planet, making conscious decisions, not because we have to, not because we can't afford to buy anything new, because we say it's the right thing to maybe share, buy secondhand or repair. But where do we actually need to go to make the difference for the world? We need to go to the circular industrial economy, because we want and we need that firms see an economic benefit of moving towards circular economy business models. And this can only happen if we are using technology and innovative tools. Circular economy is also a great promise for European Union. It's a potential to create a lot of new jobs. We are also having a huge refugee crisis all over Europe. This is an area where I think we will see a lot of growth and potential. Back to the European Union. So the extended producer responsibility laws. So what is it about to come in the near future? These laws are already in Netherlands, California, and France. France is very strong when it comes to promoting sustainability in fashion. So in the near future, fashion companies will need to provide care and repair guidance for consumers. They will need to offer online and offline fashion repair services, provide spare parts. So just like in the electronic good industry, we should be also allowed to ask for spare parts at the producers. And we are going to have a digital product pass, meaning that every piece of clothing that's going to be put on the European market will have a passport where we should become or should get information about the supply chain, but also about the options to resell that product, to repair it, or to properly recycle it. But we are also facing a lot of challenges. As I mentioned, the repair industry is still in its infancy. There's still a lot of stigma associated with repair. A lot of people still think repair is a poor man's business, so you're repairing because you are not able to buy anything new. There's a huge price competition. Fast fashion is typically cheaper than repairing because we have labor costs in European Union in comparison to production costs in Global South. There's low digital literacy of the repair industry, price dumping, and lack of innovation. As I said, nobody has been investing in innovative solutions in the fashion industry and foremost in the repair industry. But I believe we also have a great chance. And I think by collaborating, we can promise a greater future for repair by creating more consumer awareness. So events like today, I think, is a great benefit on spreading the word to the larger society about the topic. We need to invest in local craftsmanship. We need to celebrate it and support it more and more. We need, of course, software and logistic tools, as well as governments. We need VAT tax reductions. In many European countries, we still pay the full VAT tax for the repair services. And I think foremost, fashion industry needs a bit more courage and faith and collaboration to move things forward. So to end my talk, I want to give you that quote, which Professor Walter Stachel told me in one of our Zoom calls we had a couple of months ago. Only real men wear repaired suits. And for me, repair is a sign of confidence. If you are willing to wear repaired clothing, you are signaling the world that I'm proud of the clothing that I'm wearing. My clothing are worth repairing. Repair is a revolutionary act. In the world we are living now, with wars and environmental crisis, it's a sign of solidarity and hope. And I'm a true believer that small things count. And that by starting to repair our clothing, we can also repair the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Monika. Do we have any questions to Monika? Then I will ask you some questions. I'm not sure, but I think you didn't mention the price of this concept you made, because you only said that it's more expensive. So how much more expensive it is to repair a product compared to buy a new one?
Well, it depends where you buy your clothes, right? I think still like I said, repairing clothing in Europe, we are paying the European wages. And producing clothing in Global South, we are paying a very different wage. So I think the comparison is very clear. I would say still the price of repair compared to high quality clothing is worth it. So we are not that expensive, right? It's not that expensive service. But of course, the reality is that we can buy fashion very cheaply if we want to.
But do you see a difference in people's mindset of repairing clothes and shoes if you compare Germany and, for example, Lithuania, where you are from originally? Because I think maybe a bit there is a difference.
Definitely. I mean, that's the reason why I founded this startup, because even here, you know, I saw a lot of raised hands in the public. So the topic of repairing is still very much embedded in our everyday life. In Germany, my daughter, she goes to a German school. She doesn't learn household economics, right? So a lot of younger generation don't even know how to sew a button, right? So people don't even have repair on their sort of daily routine. It's not part of their fashion consumption habits. And that's why I see even a greater potential, of course, in the Western Europe. But I believe also in all parts of the world, we should try to make these services more visible and more convenient and more digital, just as we have it in the mainstream fashion purchases.
How does this app work? Can you explain? Do I just download it on my phone and then some guy comes to pick up my shoes to repair, or how does it work?
So we piloted it in Düsseldorf with door-to-door delivery. So you could book your pickup time and your delivery time. You will know who repaired your clothing. You can also write a comment or eventually also tip the person. But we also now expanded all over Germany, and we offer the service over shipping. And we see that people are used to buy fashion online, people are used to return fashion. So pretty much people send us their goods and then they receive it back. And we see that people, especially in rural areas who don't live in the city, really have it difficult to find a good seamstress, and it's almost impossible to find a cobbler.
How happy are your clients? Are they sending you sometimes your work back saying that you didn't do these shorts very well?
I would say the return rates are very, very low. Typically, we even have customers from, I think last month we repaired a biker's jacket from Sardinia, and the guy wrote us that none of the seamsters wanted to do the job. So he had tears in his eyes, and of course that gives an extra motivation to go an extra mile. And I think in our company, we try to never say no. So even if people come with crazy repairs or very, very old things, we say, great that you chose to repair, right? And we will try to do it. It might not make economical sense, and it might be expensive because a person might need to spend 5 or 6 hours doing it. But if you want it, we can do it. And a lot of people say yes, because, you know, fashion is not only economical, it's also sentimental.
So how profitable is this business?
We are still a startup, so we're looking for investors, we're looking for big companies to support us. We're still in the very early days, and it's a hard business because we are fighting the giant. Yeah.
So is there any questions now in the audience? Yes, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask about the scalability of your solution. I've been very fascinated with that particular idea myself. So do you also repair still in Düsseldorf or right now around Germany? And what are your scaling plans?
Well, the good thing is that we work with independent repair providers. We have shops or shop owners of small corner shops, but we also have people who repair at home. And we are expanding over Germany and hopefully also in Europe soon. But because we work with external providers, I think the business is scalable.
Thank you, Monika. We hope that this will come to Estonia as well.